On Yemen, it was initially described, the raid over the weekend, as a successful raid by the administration. Mm-hmm. There are now some questions that CENTCOM is raising about the possibility of additional civilian casualties. So I've got a couple of questions for you on this one. Yeah. Would you still stand by your characterization as the raid is successful? Was the president given multiple options about this raid or just one? And were there consultations with the prior administration's national security officials, military officials about the raid moving forward?
Thank you. Actually, I'd like to just walk through that. I appreciate you bringing this up. There is let's go through the tick-tock on that raid. On November 7th, CENTCOM submitted the plan to DOD. Clearly, that was under the last administration. Legal teams were involved immediately when it was submitted to DOD. On December 19th, the plan was approved by the Department of Defense and recommended that it be moved ahead. It was sent then to the National Security Council staff here in the White House. Again, this all happened under the previous administration. On January 6th, there was an interagency deputies meeting. The deputies recommended at that time that they go ahead. It was so easily approved, it was sent straight up. The conclusion was at that time to hold for what they called a moonless night, which by calendar wouldn't occur until then President-elect Trump was President Trump. On January 24th, shortly after taking office, Secretary Defense, then Mattis, read the memo, resent it back up to the White House, conveying his support. On the 25th of January, the president was briefed by General Flynn on Secretary Mattis's recommendation and the status of the operation or potential operation. The president asked to see Secretary Mattis and Joint Chiefs of Staff Dunford. He then, on that evening, had a dinner meeting, which included the president, the vice president, Secretary Mattis, Chairman Dunford, Chief of Staff Priebus, Jared Kushner, Chief Strategist Bannon, General Kellogg, General Flynn, and CIA Director Pompeo, where the operation was laid out in great extent. The indication at that time was to go ahead. On Friday, the 26th in the morning, the Deputies Committee met again. It was not a necessary step because they had previously recommended and also reaffirmed their support for that. On January 26th, the president signed the memo authorizing the action. So it was not only was it a very, very thought out process by this administration. It had started back in November 7th in terms of clearly well before that, but it was a move forward by CENTCOM on November 7th. This was a very, very well thought out and executed effort.
Where was the president the night of the raid? How did he learn about Chief Owens' death? And do you still stand by your characterization that it was successful?
The president was here in the residence. He was kept in touch with his national security staff. Secretary Mattis and others had kept him updated on both the raid and the death of Chief Owens, as well as the 4 other individuals that were injured. So he was kept apprised of the situation throughout the evening. And again, I think I would go back to what I said yesterday. It's hard to ever call something a complete success when you have the loss of life or people injured. But I think when you look at the totality of what was gained to prevent the future loss of life here in America, and against our people and our institutions and probably throughout the world in terms of what some of these individuals could have done, I think it is a successful operation by all standards. It is, and again, I want to reiterate, it is tough to ever use the word success when you know that somebody has lost their life. But when you go back and look at an individual that dedicated their life to serving this country and went over and over and over again, knowing that this was not only the risk that he took, but wanted to do it because he knew the threat that these kind of individuals pose to our country and to our people. That's, while not a success that you lost him, you know that he died in sacrifice